A machine just passed a medical licensing exam, wrote a best-selling novel, and composed a symphony, all before lunch. But here's what's wild. The dream of thinking machines started with a mathematician trying to crack Nazi codes in 1940s England. How did we get from secret wartime bunkers to AI in your pocket? The answer involves two nuclear winters where AI nearly died completely. A bet between scientists that changed everything and a Canadian professor everyone ignored for 30 years. Buckle up. This is the untold story of artificial intelligence. 1950. A British mathematician named Alan Turing publishes a paper with a deceptively simple question. Can machines think? Now, Turing wasn't just any mathematician. He'd already helped win World War II by cracking the Nazi Enigma code. His paper proposed what we now call the Turing test. If a machine can fool a human into thinking it's human through conversation alone, can we say it's intelligent? This wasn't science fiction. Turing was dead serious. He even predicted machines would pass his test by the year 2000. He was only about 2 decades off. 6 years later, summer of 1956, a small group of scientists gathered at Dartmouth College in New Hampshire. John McCarthy, a young mathematician, had convinced the Rockefeller Foundation to fund an 8-week workshop to study. And here's where the name comes from. Artificial intelligence. McCarthy, along with Marvin Minsky, Claude Shannon, and others, believed that every aspect of learning could be so precisely described that a machine could simulate it. They were optimistic, ambitious, and, as we'll see, wildly wrong about how long this would take. The late 1950s and 1960s were electric with possibility. Researchers built programs that seemed almost magical. The logic theorist, created by Alan Newell and Herbert Simon, could actually prove mathematical theorems. It even found a more elegant proof than the one in a famous textbook. Then came Eliza, a chatbot created at MIT that mimicked a therapist so convincingly that people poured their hearts out to it, even knowing it was just a program. Chess programs were beating amateur players. The future seemed inevitable. Human-level AI was maybe 20 years away. Funding poured in from governments and corporations. This was the golden age, but there was a problem. A big one. These early AI systems were brilliant at narrow tasks, but completely helpless outside their specific domains. The chess program couldn't play checkers. Eliza couldn't actually understand a single word it processed. And machine translation? The US government had poured millions into translating Russian, imagining automated spying on Soviet documents. The results were embarrassing. The famous example, "The spirit is willing, but the flesh is weak," came back from Russian as, "The vodka is good, but the meat is rotten." Something fundamental was missing. In 1973, a devastating report landed on desks across Britain. The Lighthill report declared that AI had failed to achieve its ambitious goals. Funding dried up almost overnight. In the US, DARPA slashed AI research budgets. Universities closed AI labs. The media, which had breathlessly promised robot butlers, turned hostile. This period, from roughly 1974 to 1980, became known as the first AI winter. Researchers who stayed in the field had to hide what they were doing, calling it pattern recognition or expert systems. Anything but artificial intelligence. It was a dark, cold time for the dream of thinking machines. But AI researchers are persistent people. By the early 1980s, they found a new approach. Expert systems. Instead of trying to create general intelligence, what if we just captured the knowledge of human experts in specific fields? Mycin, developed at Stanford, could diagnose blood infections as accurately as human doctors. Sometimes better, Companies went crazy for this. Japan announced a massive fifth generation computer project. Suddenly, corporations were paying millions for expert systems that could configure computers, approve loans, and schedule factories. AI was back, baby. Investment hit $1 billion a year. You can probably guess what happened next. Expert systems turned out to be expensive, brittle, and almost impossible to maintain. Every time the real world changed, humans had to manually update thousands of rules. The systems couldn't learn, couldn't adapt, couldn't handle anything outside their narrow programming. By 1987, the market collapsed. Companies that had spent fortunes on AI declared it a waste. Japan's fifth generation project failed to meet any of its goals. The second AI winter had arrived. And this one was even colder. The term artificial intelligence became almost toxic in funding applications. Here's where the story gets interesting. While AI was in disgrace, a small group of researchers was working on something different. Instead of programming rules, what if machines could learn from data? This idea, machine learning, had existed since the 1950s but was considered impractical. Then three things changed. Computers got exponentially faster following Moore's law. The internet created massive datasets to learn from, and algorithms improved dramatically. In 1997, something remarkable happened. IBM's Deep Blue beat world chess champion Garry Kasparov. This wasn't an expert system. It was raw computational power combined with smart learning algorithms. A new era was beginning. Now we meet the hero who was ignored for 30 years. Geoffrey Hinton, a British-Canadian researcher, had been obsessed with neural networks since the 1970s. Computer systems loosely modeled on the brain. Everyone told him it was a dead end. Funding agencies rejected him. Colleagues said he was wasting his career. But Hinton kept going. In 2012, Hinton and two students entered a computer vision competition called ImageNet. Their neural network, a type called a deep learning system because it had many layers, didn't just win, it destroyed the competition, cutting the error rate nearly in half. Suddenly, the whole AI community realized Hinton had been right all along. After 2012, AI exploded into the real world faster than anyone predicted. In 2011, Apple launched Siri, a voice assistant that seemed like science fiction. Google Photos started recognizing faces automatically. Netflix and YouTube used AI to recommend what you'd watch next. So effectively, it became almost spooky. Self-driving cars went from fantasy to prototypes actually driving on public roads. Your spam filter, your phone's autocorrect, the fraud detection on your credit card, all AI. Most people didn't notice it happening, but by the mid-2010s, you were interacting with AI dozens of times a day without realizing it. In March 2016, the AI world held its breath. Google DeepMind's AlphaGo was playing Lee Sedol, one of the greatest Go players in history. Go is ancient, beautiful, and astronomically more complex than chess. There are more possible board positions than atoms in the observable universe. Experts said AI couldn't master it for at least another decade. Then AlphaGo made move 37 in game 2. A move so unusual that commentators thought it was a mistake. Lee Sedol left the room for 15 minutes to compose himself. It wasn't a mistake, it was genius. AlphaGo won the series 4-1. The game that humans thought was uniquely ours wasn't anymore. In 2017, Google researchers published a paper with a modest title, Attention is All You Need. It introduced a new architecture called the transformer. Instead of processing language word by word, Transformers could look at entire sequences simultaneously, understanding context in ways previous systems couldn't. This might sound technical, but here's what it meant in practice. Suddenly, AI could write coherent paragraphs, translate languages accurately, and understand questions in a way that felt almost human. When OpenAI built GPT, the generative pre-trained transformer, using this architecture and trained it on massive amounts of text from the internet, something remarkable emerged. November 30th, 2022, OpenAI quietly released ChatGPT. Within 5 days, it had 1 million users. Within 2 months, 100 million. The fastest growing application in human history. Suddenly, everyone was talking to AI. Students used it for homework. Programmers used it to write code. Writers used it to brainstorm. It wasn't perfect. It made mistakes, hallucinated false information, and sometimes produced nonsense. But it felt like magic. For the first time, the general public experienced what AI researchers had been working toward for 70 years. A machine you could actually talk to. So here we are in 2024. AI can generate photorealistic images from text descriptions, compose music, write code, and hold conversations that often feel genuinely intelligent. Tech giants are in an AI arms race, investing hundreds of billions of dollars. Governments are scrambling to regulate something they barely understand. Some researchers warn about existential risks. Others promise a utopia of abundance. We're living through what might be the most significant technological revolution since the internet. Maybe since electricity. The question is no longer whether machines can think. The question now is, what happens when they can? Let's recap the incredible journey we just took. First, AI wasn't born yesterday. It's been 8 decades in the making, surviving 2 near-death winters and countless setbacks. Second, the breakthrough came from machine learning, especially deep learning neural networks, not from programming rules by hand. And third, we're now at an inflection point where AI is transforming from a research curiosity into a technology that affects every part of our lives. If you want to understand what's coming next, watch our next video. How AI actually works, machine learning explained simply. It'll give you the foundations to understand everything from ChatGPT to self-driving cars. If this video helped you, hit subscribe. We're building the best free AI education on YouTube. And drop a comment. Which moment in AI history surprised you most? The AI winters? Move 37? I'm genuinely curious what resonated with you.